Ho ho ho! That curb. Oh, that is way better. Let's see those camber changes now. That felt good. Hey boys, Qubic System came up with very cool idea how to give us high-end motion experience for half the price, replacing 2 of the 4 actuator in their 3 DOF system with that pivot kit, and in that video I will try to explain you exactly what we get from that 2.5 degree of freedom setup in terms of driving experience and how it compares exactly with the full 4-corner setup. I don't want to waste your time in the technical stuff, so let's go briefly through the specs and then jump in the driving part, which is what really matters. So, as you know, I drive on the 3 degree of freedom for almost 2 years now with the QS210 model from Qubic System with the 60mm stroke, 8 milliseconds response time and 400 millimeters per second velocity speed. In little words, those specs sync with the sim titles and gives very natural immersive experience, but you'll understand exactly what I'm talking about in a few minutes. Also, 10 seconds for the necessary disclaimer. Qubic System sent that kit for test and review without any conditions, and as always the goal is to give you objective, informative and realistic expectations from the product. Moving back to the 2.5 degree of freedom system, as I've said, 2 of the actuators are replaced with that pivot kit, which must be set in front of the rig to get the maximum of each effect from the 2 actuators, and in this case I use again the QS210 model, but revision 3, which now has separate connections and is way easier to be attached to the rig. In little words, the pivot will allow the rig to move and tilt, but let's see exactly what we're gonna get for half the price in terms of driving experience and how it compares to that full 3 DOF system. This is not gonna be a short video, as the investment is quite big and you really have to know what exactly you are getting for the money, so buckle up and let's dive in the experiences. Here is what's gonna happen. I choose the Audi GTO on iRacing because it's the car with the most flex on the setup. And I choose iRacing, I set some reset points and we'll start jumping from rig to rig. And try to explain what are the differences I feel between the 3 DOF and the 2.5. So I set few cameras and let's start driving and explaining what is happening here. Now, the 3 DOF is with the 4 actuators, 2 on front, 2 on the back, and it has tilt, it has that movement through the middle, and have the heave motion. And the first thing I want to show you is when I start ruling the car, but with not the correct RPMs and the engine start bogged down, doesn't have the power to accelerate, the chassis start jumping like this, and because of the 4 actuators, the middle axis stay on the same place, and that makes it feel so realistic because I feel like the seat is pushing me from the back. It will be very interesting to see what's happening on the other side, where we have the front fixed and the kick only from the back. That is one point I want to see. And again, right now there are no any haptic feedback, only the chassis effects. Next is, let's jump into carousel. Now, carousel, I definitely feel I'm diving in, like I can feel the front end diving first and then the entire chassis lean on the side. I'm not very sure how will that be reproduced on the other side just with 2 actuators, but with 4 is super realistic. Like I can feel the front end dive first and then the rear follow. I feel that heave going into that camber and staying sideways. Also on the acceleration, I can feel like the front is going up and the rear down. So I can feel the car doing that. Going into the carousel and out of carousel, I can feel weightless for a second through the heave movements. Then I can feel exactly when I'm touching curbs with the front or the rear. It is very distinguished. Then I can feel when the road is going up or going down. I can feel all the weight transfer correctly. And everything is just super precise. Now, is it possible to feel that way on the other rig? I don't know. I did like probably 20 runs on this part of the track. And everything feels so realistic with the 2.5 DOF system from Qubic System, but let's jump there and see what's happening actually. Remember, because that is very important, both setups are to default settings and I just turn off all the haptic effects because I really want to feel the movements only. And that is the worst case scenario, because when I start applying all the haptics, things will get close together. But right now I really want to feel only the motion and see those differences. And that being said, let's start with the low RPMs engine start and see how that feels here. Okay, that is quite close. I can still feel the push coming from the bottom, because here we have the actuators on the back only. So the movement is like this, on the other side is like this. The middle stay in the same ground. But the feeling is very close and that doesn't make the difference I expected to make. Let's try that again. Yeah, that is definitely close. So, next one is, let's see how it's going to feel going into the carousel and out of the carousel, because on the other side is super realistic. Let me do that again. Yeah. So here I found a little difference. On the other rig with the 4 actuators, I definitely can feel the front end diving in, and then going out of the carousel is like the car is taking off. So going in and out, I feel a little bit weightless, and here going in, I feel the initial push when the rear sits inside, and going out is way more numb feeling, because probably on the other side, the front actuators really push and give that sensation of going out and that weightless effect. But inside the carousel, everything feels the same, the anomalies of the track. And in this one, things feels just a little bit softer. Now, let's make a run and hit few curbs to see how that feels. Come on. Yeah, I feel something going out, but it's not that sharp feeling. Yeah, I understand what is happening. Yeah. So let me explain. Now, hitting curbs on the other side, it feels very distinguished when I touch with the front tire. It is very sharp push, and here is more soft touching the curb. But what I feel is when I actually go down from the curb here, more distinguished, if that makes sense. So hitting is a bit softer, but going down out of the curb, then I feel a little bit more rapid movement. I will start adding some haptic effects, which will close further the gap between those two setups. And for that reason, I will jump on Sebring and see how those 3D curves really feels. So that will be now only a rumble strip effect, where I will touch the 3D curves and try to feel how it goes through the 4 actuators, and then see the differences on the other side. So, let's go slow. That's crazy. Yep, so the way it goes is whenever I touch with the front tire, the curbs, I feel it through my feet and my body, of course, but I can feel from where the source of the feedback is coming. And now let's do it in quite fast pace. Yep, so everything is very distinguished from which corner that feedback is coming, and honestly that is one of those effects which gives so much life to the experience. And again, 4 actuators are capable to give each effect from each of the corners, and it feels very natural and precise. Now let's move to the other side and see how the 2 actuators will perform and how it's going to feel. Same part of the track, Let's
Unlocking
drive
park
first
position.
slowly. Let's do that again, but even slower. Now, once again, there is definitely a difference, because when I touch the curbs with the front end of the car, it doesn't feel that sharp and responsive. The cockpit is still shaking, but for sure it's not that clear feedback from where exactly it's coming. And that's absolutely normal. There are just two actuators, and I'm getting mostly feedback from the wheel. But let's do that again in fast pace and see. So, it is definitely fun, but it's just not that precise. And again, that's absolutely normal. We're working with two actuators here instead of four. And from the other side, everything again feels, as I've said, sharper. So that is the main difference. But I'm giving tons of attention about each effect, and I'm consciously looking for the feedback on each side. I'm not very sure how that will feel to someone, even to me, if I'm not constantly jumping from rig to rig. Maybe you won't really feel that difference, but now jumping from the other side to this one, I can definitely feel on the other side is, let's say, twice more alive. Next effect is also very important, which is forward slip walk, which means every time I lock the front tires, there should be some kind of vibration. And again, with four actuators, this must be quite distinguished, but let's check out. Yep. Yeah, now you see when I lock the tires, the chassis starts shaking. Let's do that again. Yep. Again, it's sensible from the front actuators. The rear are doing absolutely nothing in this case. So very interesting to see if that effect will be sensible at all on the other side. Let's move and check there. Putting all the time the gloves because I really don't want to destroy the wheel material. So okay. Okay, that's surprising now. That's surprising. I didn't expect to feel anything at all, but it looks like that effect translates to the rear actuators as well. So again, cool, very cool. No complaints about this one. Absolutely zero complaints. There is a feedback and it feels quite sweet. Let's make one huge big lock. Good. Okay, no complaints about this one. Moving to the next. Next effect is one of my favorite and probably one of the most important if you wanna go fast and keep on the limits of the grips, and that is the tire slip angle effect, which means whenever we exceed the slip angle of the tire, when we exceed the limits of the grip, I should take frequency-based feedback to the entire chassis and know at exactly which moment I'm losing the optimal grip. That is something you cannot really feel through the wheelbase, so let me try to show you what is happening. So I'm not sure if you can hear that sound, but whenever the car starts sliding a little bit, the entire chassis is shaking like this. It's like the tire starts losing the grip, and it's quite realistic feeling because in your car, when you lose grip, you get that feeling of the car jumping on the road. Very, very, very important feedback. Oh. No. If I turn the wheel too much, I get the same effect. So even if you are turning into the corner and you exceed the angle of attack, which the tires can get for optimal grip, you take the instant feedback. Yeah, it's beautiful shake and very, very important feedback. Let's jump on the other side and see, because here I can feel very clearly when it's coming and is sent through the entire chassis. As I've said, that is one of my favorite effects for actual driving information, understanding where exactly the tire limits are. So let's see how it feels here. I can instantly say it's almost the same. Yep, it's almost the same. Okay. Yeah. So, definitely, I'm happy to report it feels the same. Absolutely the same here. I didn't expect that. I didn't see that coming, but it really gives that frequency-based feedback, and I instantly understand when exactly I'm losing the grip of the tires, which is super important, especially for some corners where you try to work on your setup and really keep the maximum speed. You don't get any proper feedback from the wheel for that information, so really cool. That's really cool. Now let's change to different car and different sim and try to feel the entire experience with both setups. Now that's ACC on Mount Panorama, where the straight is really bumpy and there are a lot of heaves I'm gonna feel on the straight, which will be very interesting to compare to the other side. In general, I will compare the entire experience between both on this sim. And one thing I have to give attention is the shifting. The slip angle effect. I can feel that effect so clear. There we go again. That road is so bumpy, but the experience with the 2.5 is so rich. It is insanely rich. Like curves, ABS effect, slip angle effect, all those movements, gear shifting. It's crazy. There we go again, the straight. Like, it's awesome. Oh, again. As I've said, those camber changes are also so well noticeable, and that's what really gives a realistic sensation of being on the track. It's absolutely crazy. So boys, here is what's gonna happen. I turn up a little bit the overall gain, and then because I feel this setup is a little bit softer, I turn the vertical G-forces with about 20% and also the sharpness, and the same I did for the rumble strip. So that's gonna be interesting to see how it feels. Now let's do some laps around and try to explain what I'm feeling around the track. I'm very curious to see what those changes gonna make to the experience, because initially felt way too soft, particularly here on the straight. Let's see what that sharpness gonna give us right now. Definitely that is way better. I felt the heave. Let's test the curbs. Way better with the extra power on the rumble strip. Oh boy, and that slip angle effect is so sweet and intuitive. Let's take that VRT. Oh, that curb. Oh, that is way better. Let's see those camber changes now. That felt good. Oh, almost. Not much rotation in this car. Now I can definitely feel I'm going downhill. So that extra sharpness really make huge difference. I think I've set 80%, but right now with those little tweaks feels more like 90. That bumpy road now feels so much natural. The heave. It's not exactly the same, but it's definitely there. Let's try to go full throttle this entire section. Ah, almost. Ooh, that heave was nice. My God. Ah. That was cool, that was cool. Sorry guys, I'm going the wrong way, but nobody's coming. Yeah, I really think that if you are not jumping from rig to rig, you will find those differences that big. Oh. Can't believe those little changes make such a huge difference. Of course, the front end of the car is still a bit more mute. Absolutely logical, but the experience is very, very close. Yeah. Let's try again, full throttle. Good one. Can we go flat out here? No. Absolutely awesome, those camber changes. Well, 80%? I don't think so. This is more like 90%. And when they have the price. Absolutely awesome. Absolutely awesome. Let's do another one. Yeah, those elevation changes are really, really sensible. Let's try to hit the apex this time. Go close, close, close. Inside is the grip. Come on, bro. Flat, 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 flat. I don't care. I have to take it flat. Okay. Okay, that needs setup. So. Sorry, bro. Sorry. I can't believe that with few setting tweaks, the experience changed so radically. That sharpness and a little bit extra force on the vertical movement gives so much more in terms of the heave experience. Absolutely awesome. So, after the excitement, let me calm down and explain my final thoughts after days of testing those two solutions. The 2.5 degree of freedom gives about 80 to 90% of the 3 DOF experience for half the price, which is absolutely brutal value. Also, this is the worst case scenario as I'm testing those setups side by side with very intense conscious attention to each detail. If I just drive the testing rig, I won't be capable to explain all those differences. For some effects, like rumble strips and heave movements, the 2.5 DOF system is quite more informative and more realistic, but after tweaking the settings, I came very close. Usually, those are the two effects which feels a bit different, and it makes total sense as we are just on two actuators. From tire lock, tire slip angle, ABS, TC and other haptic effects, both setups are very close. For example, the elevation changes, the road camber changes, throwing the car from corner to corner with heavy chassis weight transfer, those two are surprisingly close on each setup. Again, the 2.5 degree of freedom feels just a bit softer, but my brain in both cases is very immersed with the movements combined with the visual presentation of the sim. Again, 80% or 90%, those are not scientific numbers, those are just my personal thoughts from my subjective experience, but one thing for sure is this is huge achievement and great way to enter the motion world, no doubt about it.